welcome everyone. Just getting a few things ready. Welcome. You're 1 minute early. Thanks for being here. We'll be getting started in just a moment. All right, we got 30 seconds till showtime. Thank you for being here early. 30 seconds till showtime. T minus 30 seconds. If you're just tuning in, you're wondering why I'm drumming. Oh, that's because I'm waiting for the song to finish. Ah, there it is. Very good. Well, thank you for being here tonight. Welcome. Bienvenuti a tutti. And this is episode 33 of Stay Tuned. And I'm very, very glad that you are here. It is my first film review of 2019. And it's pretty cool. And if you're new to the show, this is it's a podcast that I record every Sunday night, and you get to be here for the recording of the podcast. And this is, of course, the roughly raw version, and then it gets edited and cleaned up and becomes available to everybody who is a subscriber on Patreon. That is patreon.com/Phil Maki. This guy right here. All right. Well, it is after 9 o'clock in Austin, Texas, which means it is time to start the show. And away I go.
Come on, everybody. Here we go. Very funny. We now give you our brand new little sweetheart of swing.
Welcome to Stay Tuned, the show for animation lovers. recorded live on YouTube and proudly streaming on Patreon. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, I'm your host, Phil Mackey. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. My first review of 2019 is a film that swung into theaters at the end of 2018. Sony Pictures Animation's Into the Spider-Verse receives my first impressions treatment tonight. All that, and you'll have a chance to share your thoughts, questions, and opinions with me for a live Q&A after the show. You know how an insect gets caught up in a spider's web? Once in the spider's clutches, it is very unlikely that anything could pry the tiny morsel out of the arachnid's eager jaws. Well, that spider is Sony, and that tiny delicious bug is the character of Spider-Man. And crummy analogies aside, we're about to take a closer look at the latest attempt from Sony to hang on to their spider rights in just a few moments. But first, this. If I told you there was a new superhero film in theaters, you'd probably be less than surprised. And if I told you it was about Spider-Man, whatever remaining surprise you did have would also vanish. That's because since 2002, Sony has made film after film of your neighborhood's friendly wall crawler. And arguably, most of them have only kinda gotten it right. As Disney's hold over the Marvel Cinematic Universe has only increased with time, things weren't looking too good for old Spidey. The shared partnership, or is it joint custody rights, that led to Captain America Civil War, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Avengers Infinity War made a pretty good argument for Sony to finally let go, or at the very least, continue sharing Spider-Man with Disney. But good old stubborn Sony just doesn't know when to quit, and 2018 brought us a standalone Venom film in which Spider-Man was nowhere to be seen. And of course, the reason we're all here tonight, the animated Into the Spider-Verse. There's an expression about a blind squirrel eventually finding a nut, and a stopped clock being correct twice a day. And as tempting as it is to compare all that to Sony and their handling of Spider-Man, tonight's film is actually the result of what can happen when Hollywood just lets artists create art. It can be intimidating when you stop and think about how this is the 6th Spider flick to come from Sony, if you don't count Venom, or the shared licensing agreement with Marvel, Studios films. And it's reasonable to wonder where this one lies in the general continuity. Well, that's the beauty of Into the Spider-Verse. It does and it doesn't. Brilliantly, this story centers around the idea of multiple universes, as the name of the film implies. So it both acknowledges the existence of what you've already seen and at the same time has pretty much nothing to do with any of it. All you really need to know is provided for you in this movie, and that is a kid named Miles Morales, voiced by Shameik Moore, who admires Spider-Man, has a father who is a policeman, who is not a fan of the web-slinger. Miles has a less than desirable social life at school, and an uncle named Aaron who relates to Miles better than his own father. While visiting Uncle Aaron, played by Mahershala Ali, the two bond over the art of graffiti in an abandoned subway station. It is here where Miles gets his first taste of a new life, when a radioactive spider gets its first taste of Miles. Miles, in true Spider-Man fashion, develops spider-related abilities, while searching for his uncle for assistance after realizing this was no ordinary spider. Miles stumbles upon a massive underground plot involving classic villain, the Kingpin. Voiced by Liev Schreiber, Kingpin is playing mad scientist and attempting to access alternate dimensions using a particle accelerator. But this isn't your usual take over the world situation. No. Kingpin is trying to retrieve something he lost in a previous battle with Spider-Man, his wife and child. They died in a car accident after fleeing Kingpin himself when they walked in on him, duking it out with the hero. Of course, Kingpin blames Spider-Man for the loss of his family. His solution is to replace them with an alternate version. This is a landmark moment for Miles because during the struggle to stop Kingpin, he and Spider-Man discover one another using their similar spider senses. But also, it is during the battle that Kingpin succeeds in killing Spider-Man. That's right, in this reality, Peter Parker dies. But not before leaving his eventual replacement, Miles, with a USB drive and the mission to use it to disable the particle accelerator. Right off the bat, the visual style of the film jumps out at you. That's because it's an incredible example of the collaborative spirit. It blends artistic styles and draws inspiration from the dynamic nature of a comic book. In comics, every frame matters, which leads to a series of memorable and ultimately idealized moments. There are very few examples of comic book adaptations that have attempted to recreate this effect cinematically, and even fewer that have done so successfully. A great live-action example of this would be Frank Miller's Sin City, and a nice try but not quite example can be found in Ang Lee's Hulk. In a recent interview on Polygon.com with one of the film's two art directors, Patrick O'Keefe, he states, quote, "This is my first animated film. I worked previously doing a lot of concept art for video games and for advertising. I always wanted to do animated films, but I was always bothered by the idea that the final look of the film landed so far from the inspired concept art. I felt like I wouldn't have much of an impact on the way a film looks because it goes through the studio machine. I never knew where I could fit in. And then here was an opportunity where they wanted to do something different and did need to look outside the box." End quote. As best I can describe it, Into the Spider-Verse is the visual equivalent of opening a comic book and watching it spring to life in front of you. This is also supported by a rich color palette that evokes the grittiness and vibrancy of the city. While the primary means of animation does utilize CGI, the delayed frame rate, individually painted textures, and selective use of imagery combine to make something so visually robust, my initial reaction straight out the gate was, I'm gonna have to see this again. But animation alone isn't enough to make a solid film, and I'm happy to say, in terms of voice acting, soundtrack, and pacing, Into the Spider-Verse doesn't let down there either. Back to our story. Miles feels the weight on his young shoulders now that his hero has passed. So, naturally, he rushes out to purchase a cheap costume and practices his newfound abilities. During which things don't go according to plan, and he accidentally damages the vital USB drive that can stop the particle accelerator should it ever be activated again. Which, of course, you know it will. Thankfully, Miles receives some welcome assistance from Peter Parker. No, not that Peter Parker. He's dead, remember? He's dead, remember? This is Peter B. Parker, a Spider-Man from an alternate universe, and he's not what you'd expect. In his universe, love of his life, Mary Jane Watson, became his ex-wife, and Aunt May recently passed too. This is a brooding, jaded Peter Parker who has all but given up on caring. But the particle accelerator it's hard to say. But the particle accelerator brought him to Miles' dimension accidentally, and of course, he doesn't belong here. More pressing, we find out that to stay in the wrong universe leads to one's eventual deterioration. Oh no! Miles now has a very capable, albeit reluctant, mentor, and soon discovers Peter isn't the only strange traveling spider person. That new girl at his school is actually an alternate universe Gwen Stacy, aka Spider-Gwen. Gwen leads Miles and Peter to see May Parker, who has converted a backyard shed into a bona fide spider cave of sorts to protect 3 more transplants. Spider-Man Noir, a black and white 1930s interpretation. SPDR, an anime-inspired combination of mech suit and teenage girl Penny Parker. And Spider-Ham, the resulting blend of Spider-Man with a cartoon pig in the classic Warner Brothers style. I should mention Warner Brothers Looney Tunes style. I should mention that some truly inspired casting takes place here between Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir and John Mulaney as Spider-Ham. In another example of pushing the limits, each character is represented in their own unique animation style, separate from the films. This artistic decision helped drive home that these are characters dislodged from time and space. To quote O'Keefe once more, quote, when we would do our reviews, they were open to pretty much anybody who wanted to come in. When I first jumped on the team as a viz dev artist, I would go to every review I possibly could. It was all about catching the vibe. I think that openness led to people becoming more invested. Once you have a sense of ownership, you have a sense of responsibility to make sure that this thing is the best it can be. I think for everybody, it felt like such an amazing opportunity, end quote. A perfect big screen experience, the frantic action of flying through the streets of New York amidst taxis and wet pavement practically leaps towards the audience. I only wish I had seen the film in 3D, but believe me when I say this, even without those special glasses, it almost felt as if I had. That's because one of the most unique visual elements of the film is how there isn't play with the depth of field, at least not in the traditional sense. Instead, the filmmakers used CMYK offsetting like one would see on paper from a four-pass printing press. Combined with textured halftones and a reductive graphic style, Into the Spider-Verse betrays its CGI roots, and the results are unlike the pristine perfection we've come to expect in recent years. Throughout the rest of the story, Miles struggles to find his place amongst far more experienced spider folk. They are all fish out of water in his Brooklyn-based home, and yet with so little time to acclimate to his new abilities, it is also Miles who doesn't belong. These things get to the heart of what has always made Spider-Man such a relatable character. A hero dealing with identity issues and, of course, great responsibility. Feeling out of place within the familiar is the struggle of any teenager, and so it's easy to relate to Miles. What's more, he transcends his racial status. We aren't given a minority character bestowed the rights of a superhero. We're given a hero who happens to be a minority. Likewise, this isn't just an excellent superhero movie. It's a fantastic film that happens to be about superheroes. Miles Morales is half African American, half Puerto Rican, and yet this isn't something the story shoves into your face. It's simply allowed to be. For my money, that is the absolute best way to preach acceptance and diversity. Not by screaming a message, but by merely treating the character how anyone wants to be treated, like a person. This is further carried by the range of characters that are represented from across the Spider-Verse. I'm happy to report that between incredible camera work and bizarre particle effects, the film's climax is nothing short of psychedelic and a visual treat for the senses. Into the Spider-Verse is what happens when a team pushes the bar, pushes themselves, and at the same time confidently steps out into the void to show the world what they can really do. This was all too apparent from just my first watch through, and it even made me wonder why we don't see more brilliance like this more often. Because truthfully, Sony Pictures Animation made it look easy here. This is the same company that thought the Emoji Movie was a better choice in film over Popeye the Sailor. Miles Morales is a very real, very relatable young man whom you are generally rooting for throughout the entire story. His multi-dimensional namesakes are each delightful in all their own ways too, the result of which is a feeling of inclusiveness most films wish they could successfully achieve. The movie has already more than tripled its budget, so it's no wonder a sequel and a spin-off are already in the works. And while I am very curious to see how close to this high bar anyone else can reach, without a doubt, Into the Spider-Verse proves it can be done. Which means we can expect to see copycats going forward. And you know what? Good. I hope studios start taking risks once more, because as O'Keefe stated, there is typically a huge disconnect between the inspirational concept art and the mass-produced results that follow on screen. This is what animation has the power to do when the right motivation is behind it. Here's hoping we don't have to hop dimensions before finding it again. With producers Phil Lord and Christopher Miller at the helm, the gents behind Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and the Lego Movie, I'm confident good things are in store. Look, a big part of Spider-Man's charm, and by that I mean both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, is that he's a kid. An awkward kid who was thrown into a situation he didn't ask for, and ultimately wants to do the right thing. He's an outsider, and I think it speaks volumes that it took people like Patrick O'Keefe and composer Daniel Pemberton, who were outsiders when it came to animation, to push the medium. A new bar has been set, and it's a truly exciting time in animation because, as this film proves, the only limits are one's imagination. Combine that with a team who rallies around a singular goal that encourages collaboration in telling the right story in the best way possible, and well, true brilliance is the outcome. I'm giving Into the Spider-Verse 10 out of 10 radioactive spiders. As always, we're about to take a short intermission where we'll listen to a little music from tonight's feature. Insert music here for the podcast. That was Escape the Subway and Take the S Train from the score to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, composed by Daniel Pemberton. In perhaps one of the most brilliantly paired team-ups for a film I've seen, Daniel created a score that, similar to the visual style of the film itself, defies preconceived boundaries. Combining jazz, electronic dance, and record scratching to represent the manic situations experienced by Miles, the score is fresh and feels very true to the city it represents. It also does the job in matching to the various spider characters who all have their own flair. Daniel rose to the occasion in this, his first feature-length animated film. His previous works have been mostly live-action thrillers. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Thanks so much to all of you listening in live on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you would like to support Stay Tuned and listen anytime, join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/PhilMaki to become a subscriber today. Among the cool rewards available there, you can also stream this show anytime you like, which means never missing an episode. For more fun, check out my original comic books at retailsunshine.com, and you can interact with me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under the handles of both Retail Sunshine and Philmaki. Also, you can keep up to date with the latest animation news by visiting this show at facebook.com/Stay Tuned Show. I've been Phil Maki, you've been a wonderful audience, and until next time, keep those eyeballs peeled, those ears open, and be sure to stay tuned. Hey everybody, thanks for being here. Welcome to the after party. Thank you for the like, whoever gave me a like. Much appreciated. I'm going to export export my audio. All right. That way I make sure I get to keep my audio in case anything were to happen. Well, welcome to the after party. You've made it. Thank you so much for being here. And we now get to talk about whatever it is you guys want to talk about. So let's talk about Into the Spider-Verse. And before I get to that, before I start reading all your comments, I just want to remind everybody a couple of announcements. First of all, so next week, be here next week, I've got my second part of the 3-part music series with Dynamic Music Partners. So Christopher Carter will be here. He is an Emmy Award-winning composer who does work with the composer I spoke with last week, Lolita Ritmanis, and so he'll be here next week. So make sure you come and listen to that show. He is currently a composer on Young Justice Outsiders, which is streaming on the DC Universe streaming service. Also, I'd like to give a special shout out thanks to my Rubber Hose subscribers, Diana A., Ronita Davis, and Ryan Shaver. Thank you 3 so very much. And if you're wondering what a Rubber Hose subscriber is, well, I'm so glad you asked. If you head on over to patreon.com/PhilMaki, you can check out the show there. You can subscribe, and there are various levels, starting at $1. And believe it or not, everything does help. But if you start at the $5 level, you can get the access to the podcast that I'm recording during the show, which has full music and more pristine audio and editing out anytime that I say the wrong thing. So it's a nice clean version of the show. And I think it's great because you can go back and listen to every episode that's been made so far, including the ones where I wasn't on YouTube. I was on an app called Station Head. So you can go back all the way to April and May and listen to the Station Head episodes. Yeah, Station Head episodes. Anyway, but if you go there, you'll see the different tiers, and Rubber Hose subscribers are one of the higher tiers. They're awesome, and thank you so much for that. Let's see what the comments. TJ says, Mr. Phil. Hi, TJ. Ryan says, howdy. Sorry we're late. It's okay, Ryan. Welcome here. Public Awareness Media says, nice writing and delivery. Thank you so much. Jenny says, can't wait to see it on DVD. All the artists on YouTube have been making their spider personas. Mine would be a steampunk Spider-Woman. Ooh, Jenny, I would like to see that. I would really like to see that. Make sure you let us know when you get those up. Let us know during the show, and then you can even give us, if there's a link we can check out. I would be more than happy to tell everybody about your awesome steampunk spider persona. I know, Jenny, you do, Jenny's a makeup artist, so she does some pretty cool stuff, and I'm sure if she's got a steampunk spider persona, that is hard to say, if she has one of those, I'm sure it looks pretty excellent. So, but has anybody seen this movie yet? And if not, I know you guys were saying you're looking forward to seeing it when it comes to DVD. Yes, I'm also looking forward to actually picking up a copy because I want to watch it again. I would play more of the music, but of course I'm trying to avoid copyright problems. So if you haven't already, you can do a YouTube search for the Daniel Pemberton soundtrack and hear for yourself why it's so good. Excuse me. It is very good. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm having some weird, bubble caught in my throat thing. I would drink some water, but of course I don't have any sitting next to me right now. So that, pardon me for being dry and all that. But anyway, if you haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse, it is still in theaters, if I'm not mistaken, and it's probably like my favorite Marvel film. I would say like it's the one I want to go back and rewatch the most. So kudos to them. Haven't seen Venom. I don't know if Venom's any good. I was very curious about that. And Jenny says babies and theaters don't mix, so we have to wait. Phil, what would your spider persona be? Oh my gosh. You know, that's a really good question. My spider persona would probably like be a hybrid spider and like dinosaur. Or like something prehistoric, some kind of like something more spider than man. There was a version of Spider-Man in the comics where he and actually and in the animated series of the 90s where Spider-Man himself grew extra arms. He had like 6 arms total and then his 2 legs. So it was like he was, he had 8 appendages. I thought that was kind of cool and I think that's like that to me is a neat idea like an actual Spider-Man. That's just a cool thing. So I think I'd be something more along like the monster creature side if I had to pick. But I will say I had special love for. Oh yes, public awareness media is Judith. Hi Judith. I wasn't sure if you wanted me to call you out or not. I could tell from your picture, but thank you for letting me know it's you. Then he says a prehistoric spider sounds terrifying. Yes, it would be. And Judith says not a spider cat. The spider cat sounds more terrifying, actually. Man, that sounds like I don't know what that would look like. I mean, I guess it could be a spider cat. I don't know, but yeah, I like more of the monster stuff. Although I loved Spider-Man Noir. My gosh, guys! Like, first of all, Nicolas Cage did a great job, but second of all, Spider-Man Noir. Think like 1930s, 1940s detective meets Spider-Man. It was a really awesome combination and it's such a fun character. I'm not a big Marvel person, so I did not grow up reading the comics. I only grew up watching the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, which I loved. And I have a buddy of mine who's really big into Spider-Man, and he kind of gave me lots of information through the years. Like, so he would read a lot, or he would be playing a Spider-Man video game and tell me like what it all meant. And I remember him playing a video game that had like a bunch of different Spider characters all converging in one game. So that's what this movie reminded of, just my hodgepodge bits of knowledge. But what's great is you don't really have to know anything about the character because the movie just kind of takes care of it for you. And it's really a visual feast. I mean, even if you don't care about superhero movies at all, it's just a good movie. It's so much fun. It's so fresh. What's amazing is it came out in early December. I don't think I saw it until like a month later, and I kept hearing hype, right? And you would think that hype would like sway, but no, the hype actually did not take away from it. I still loved it, still impressed, still blown away. And it's great to see so many celebrities, like nerdy celebrities, like Patton Oswalt, chiming in and saying it's like the best superhero film ever. It's really great. I won't say it's the best superhero film ever because I'm a DC boy at heart, so I can't really say that. But I will tell you this is in like the top 5, if not top 3. So that's saying something right there. It really is such a remarkable movie, and I hope we see other companies take the approach of let's get inventive, let's see what this company did and let's go crazy with it and let's do our own go crazy thing. Because if you look at concept art, there's a lot of concept art that looks like for Frozen. Frozen is a great example. If you look up the concept art for Frozen, it's gorgeous. It looks like stuff that was inspired by Sleeping Beauty. And then you look at the final film, and I'm not saying the final film isn't pretty looking, but it looks very like average. It looks like traditional everything else that Disney's been churning out. So that's what's nice about this movie is it didn't feel like anything I'd ever seen. It felt like it was just trying to reinvent the medium. So for all intents and purposes, they kind of did reinvent the medium. Let's see if I have any comments that I've missed so far. And nope, nothing else. All right, good, cool. Let's see. Oh, so I've mentioned that in 1 week we've got part 2 of my composer 3-part thing. And then 2 weeks after that will be part 3, and that's going to be with Michael McQuistion. He is also part of Dynamic Music Partners. So I will have all 3 of those people. I am currently in talks with some other people that I don't want to say the names for yet because I haven't recorded those interviews yet, and I don't want to jinx it. But this is going to be a really exciting year of interviews. I can tell you that right now. I'm really excited. This week, I believe it is, they are doing a special Fathom event for you guys that are DC Comics fans, and they're doing a double feature of Superman. So last year they had the release of Death of Superman, and then they're going to do the sequel, The Reign of the Supermen, but they're showing both of them back to back as a Fathom event in select theaters. So if you can see it, I would say definitely go and see that. That's going to be a fun show, and that's what I'm going to be covering in 2 weeks. I'm going to be talking about that combined film experience. And then there's a local animator that I recently met here in Austin, and I plan on doing a live in-person video event with him, and that's going to be coming up in a few weeks. I don't know, we haven't set a date yet, but I'm going to try to find somewhere where there's solid Wi-Fi and just be on location and do an interview right from there. So I don't know if that's going to be considered like a podcast or if it's just going to be like a video event. I haven't decided yet. It might just be a video event, to be honest with you, but I think it could be a lot of fun. And again, it'll be my very first on-camera interview for Stay Tuned. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Let's see. Judith says, ooh, wonder whether I know him. You might know him, Judith. His name is Joe Rothenberg. Does that name ring any bells? Jenny says, Ryan is going to the Alita experience for his birthday, and we have a ticket for you. What? You have a ticket for me? It's animated, so it worked, right? Well, I don't know anything. I saw like one commercial for the Alita experience, but I actually don't really know what it is. So, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I don't know if that works. I guess it works. If it's animated, sure. I don't know what that even is, but I mean, I'm sure I'll find out. We'll have to talk about that later. Yeah. But yeah, so Joe Rothenberg is an animator here in Austin. He makes animations for companies. He had a cartoon short that premiered, I believe it was on Cartoon Network. So, which was pretty cool. Jenny says, we don't know what it is either. Yes, we can go into it blindly. It'll be so exciting. Awesome. I'm thrilled to go into something that I don't know what it is. That's awesome. Well, if you're just joining the video right now, we are talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you've seen it, throw your comments in the live chat. If you can't do the live chat thing, it's because you're not subscribed to my channel. So subscribe to this channel, like this video, and then go and check out a bunch of other videos I've got, because this is episode number 33, people. And actually, I just want to make a little announcement. Earlier today, the very first episode of Stay Tuned to reach 100 views, which for me is a big deal, was actually a show from last year. It was my Real Monsters episode review. So if you haven't already checked that review out, check it out. But it hit 100 views today, so I'm so excited. Thank you guys for viewing it, and thank you for sharing it. Ryan says, the Alita experience is based on Battle Angel Alita, a Japanese manga. But there is a live-action movie, and the Alita experience is a live board game based on the universe of Battle Angel Alita. So wait a minute, a live board game. So we're going together and we're all playing a board game together? Judith says, woohoo, congrats on the 100. Thank you, Judith. It's a great episode. Feel free to check it out. It's episode 23 or 24. But it's my review of the Nickelodeon cartoon Real Monsters. That was a big part of my childhood. It's still something I love so much. And yeah, so very good. Of course, there's a whole bunch of other episodes that are worth checking out, but yay for 100. Yeah, so that sounds really interesting, Ryan. I don't know anything about the Battle Angel Alita franchise. I know nothing about it, but I'm excited to learn. You think we need to go and watch the manga or read the manga or watch the anime like before doing the event? You think it's gonna like will it enhance the experience, or should I just go in blindly, just like you guys? What do you think? Ryan says a live board game. We are the pieces. Teams of 6 going through what I imagine is like an Alita themed escape room. Yes, I saw a commercial for this and it looked like an escape room, but I didn't know what it was referencing. That's so interesting. An escape room based on an anime or manga. Yeah, I'm totally down to do that. I've never seen the property before, and I've actually never done an escape room before. Believe it or not, I live within walking distance of an escape room, and I just haven't done it. But it's kind of cool to live so close to one. So, anyway, yeah. Well, if you're just joining us right now, thank you so much for joining the show. We are in the after party. That's the part where it's completely interactive, you and me, audience and show guy. And for the next, 15, 20 minutes, we're just talking about either Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, if you've seen it, or something else animated, if you would like to talk about something else animated instead. What am I missing? Am I missing anything? Let's see. Oh, got a little bit more work done today on my own animation. And actually, here's an interesting thing. I don't have anything else to show you on that today. But if you haven't seen it already, head over to the Facebook page for this show, which is facebook.com/Stay Tuned show. If you head over there, the most recent link that I posted it's a cartoon I made in college, so back in 2002. And the cartoon was based off of my livestock series. So it's called Better Off Hungry. If you haven't seen it yet, I invite you to check it out. It was my first color cartoon, and I think it still holds up for what it's worth. Oh, got a couple more comments here on the old chat feed. Ryan says, I loved the Battle Angel Alita manga, and I am stoked for the live action film it's based on. And Jenny says, how about your cat's spider personas? How about my cat's spider persona? I'm not sure I'm following the question. Ryan says, also retail sunshine stickers are suddenly appearing on my coworkers' desks. Yes! Yes! The madness. Yes, it starts. I'm so glad. Oh, those vinyl stickers are going to just be all over the place, I'm sure. I think you have like 100 of them or something like that. That's funny. Yeah, I made sticker books a couple years ago, and only a few of them, they were all kind of like test market stuff. So, in about a month, I'm planning a trip to Tucson, Arizona, and near there is where my book printers are located. There is a possibility I'm going to be visiting the place where my books get printed, which I'm really excited about. I'm probably going to do some kind of a video or something like that if I can make that happen. So I'll let you guys know. But I've never been to the place where my books get made, and the fact that I can go in is kind of cool. So yeah, that's coming up in February, like a month from now. Speaking of a month from now, we've got How to Train Your Dragon 3, if you can believe it, hitting theaters in February. Definitely check that out. That's going to be on my review list. Jenny says, if cats were bit by a radioactive spider, what would their personas be? Oh, I see. Well, gosh, Spider Phantom and Spider Duska sounds like they would be very interesting. I'm pretty sure Spider Phantom could possibly be a villain. And Spider Duska would just be, she couldn't be bothered. She just would have abilities but not want to use them. She'd use them to convenience herself somehow. I'm not sure. That's an interesting question, though. Ryan says also, the Alita experience in Austin is at the Rooster Teeth headquarters. The guys behind Red versus Blue and RWBY. Yes, I do know about those guys. I met some of them the other day. They were speaking at a live event, and they are on my list of people to have on the show this year, Rooster Teeth, because of the red versus blue. So I definitely think that they have a place in animation somehow. It's a strange place, but it's definitely a place in pop culture, right? If you haven't seen Red versus Blue, I think it's available on YouTube. But that stuff came out when I was in college. I haven't watched any of that in years, but I know now Rooster Teeth is a big production company here in Austin, and they make all kinds of stuff, not just animation. They do, I think maybe full-length feature films, but I know they do shorts. I know they do horror stuff too. Ryan says, "Wow, well, what a great way to get connected with them, joining our Alita team." Yeah, I know, right? Jenny says, "Hooray for Phil, stalking all the Austin animators." Yeah, I know. I'm hoping it gets to a point where people don't think that I'm, weird or creepy. They're just like, yeah, this is absolutely normal. We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm in talks right now with somebody over at Warner Brothers about getting somebody from the animation department to come talk with us on the show. So that's one of the people I'm working on, and I'm also working with one of the major people involved with Batman the Animated Series. I'm not gonna say who, but she is emailing me back and forth right now, trying to figure out when this week we can have a conversation. So as soon as this week, I may be recording with a very, very important component from Batman the Animated Series, which I'm super excited about. And I don't know which Warner Brothers animation person I'll be talking with yet, but I'm also working on that. So trust me, guys, I've got some excellent interviews coming your way, and one of them is going to be next week. So yeah, I can tell you the order of the next 3 weeks. It's going to be Christopher Carter next Sunday. The following Sunday is going to be my Superman show. And then the Sunday after that is going to be Michael McQuiston, also composer. So that's the next 3 weeks of shows. Again, Jenny says, that's super exciting. Yes, Jenny, it is super exciting. Who doesn't love Superman? Well, some people don't love Superman, but Superman's pretty important. So, as a quick reminder, though, please feel free to head over to patreon.com/filmhockey. And part of the reason why I'm letting you know that is I do put some stuff there. And if you're subscribed to the channel or to the page for free, you can get updates. When I do free updates, you can get those. So if you don't feel like throwing money at the show, but you want to get updates, that's a good way to do that. If you are a subscriber, one of the things that I put on that website are outtakes from interviews, parts that didn't make it because it didn't really contribute to the conversation as a whole, but it's an interesting 1 to 2 minute tidbit that I still think is worth listening to. So that's one of the perks of being part of that Patreon page, just as an FYI. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is getting a new Netflix series, which kind of blew my mind when I saw that, and I'm pretty excited about it. That was a game show, and before it was a game show, it was a video game, an educational video game by, I believe it was Broderbund Software. But it's really cool that it's getting another life. And actually, a few years back, it did have a cartoon series, a very good cartoon series, which I happen to own. It's very good. And maybe one of these days I'll cover that. But yeah, I'm really excited to see them revamping Carmen Sandiego. I think that she's a really cool character. So yeah. Anyway, well, we are coming up. We got less than 15 minutes left in tonight's show as we wind the evening down. I don't know if I mentioned How to Train Your Dragon 3 coming out next month. And I don't know if you guys have seen the other movies. They are fantastic. They are some of my favorite stuff that DreamWorks has ever put out. But surprisingly enough, a lot of movies get a TV series spin-off. How to Train Your Dragon is no exception. It had a spin-off series, really actually quite excellent. But I'm bringing it up to tie it back into Spider-Man because there are rumors that Spider-Ham is going to get a series of cartoon shorts on TV. So that's an interesting, side gig. Aside from the sequel that they're planning, and aside from the spin-off they're planning. And the spin-off, I believe, is about Spider-Gwen, Gwen Stacy, the alternate Gwen Stacy from a different dimension. So it's already becoming a franchise. They did not waste any time. I mean, I understand why. This is probably the most successful Spider-Man property, or at least it has the potential to be, right? Because I know the live-action movies brought in a lot of money, but man, this thing is taking names. I'll tell you that right now. If you haven't seen it already, I think it is still in theaters. It's doing very well, and I believe it's gonna be up for Best Animated Film at the Oscars coming up soon. So keep an eye on this one. I think it's gonna do a clean sweep. It has the potential for being a clean sweep winner at the Oscars. It's already winning awards before the Oscars. I think the Emmys. I think it already won something there. So it's kicking butt already, and it's exciting to see where this team goes next. Of course, there are trailers already in theaters for the Lego Movie 2, subtitle The Second Part, and that's coming up soon. And then later this year, we're going to be getting, what was the other one I was going to mention besides Lego Movie? Oh, yeah, The Secret Life of Pets is getting a sequel. That's coming up later this year. And then we're also going to be getting The Missing Link. So that's going to be a stop-motion film from Laika. Laika, the people that brought you Coraline and Paranorman and Box Trolls and Kubo and the Two Strings. So, I'm looking forward to this. Is a good year for animation content. There's going to be some real good stuff coming up. Are any of those films on your guys' radar? Are those films that you guys are excited about? Or maybe is there one that I didn't mention that you guys are really looking forward to, or perhaps a TV series? Speaking of TV series, that is super awesome. Young Justice Outsiders just started about a week or two ago. It's on the DC Universe streaming service, and there are 6 episodes in. They've been releasing like 3 every Friday, and it's really good, guys. Like, it's something totally worth it. Sheridan says, "Hell's yeah!" Well, Sheridan, welcome. I didn't know you were checking out the show. What are you looking forward to? Are you looking forward to the Oscars? I know you happen to throw an Oscar party every year. I'm imagining you're probably very excited about seeing some animated content win some awards. I'm excited to see that personally. A Monster in Paris. A Monster in Paris. Huh. I need to check that out. I don't think I've even heard of that yet. I gotta check that out. Ryan says How to Train Your Dragon 3 for sure, which is high on your list. You wrote the word high 3 times. Is that 3 for How to Train Your Dragon 3? Sheridan says more animated French films for kiddos. Yes, animated French films are awesome. I need to check that out. Animated French films are great. They remind me a lot of animated Canadian films, which are also great. We weren't speaking of this, but speaking of Batman, we recently got to celebrate Batman Beyond's 20th anniversary, which makes me feel older, because I remember watching that show when it first came out. But Batman Beyond just turned 20 years, everybody. Nico 3, a Finnish film. Oh, interesting. Now, is Nico 3 just the name of the film, or is it the third Nico? Is it like a trilogy of Nikos? That's it. I've not heard of that one either. Jenny says How to Train Your Dragon. Anything stop action I am super interested in. Yeah, so Jenny, definitely check out Missing Link. Oh, it's the third Nico. Okay. All right. Do you recommend the first 2 Nikos? Are those things that you think that people should be watching? Jenny says, I've watched A Monster in Paris. I liked it. Oh, great. Okay, so is Monster in Paris new, or is it coming out, or did I just completely miss the boat and it's an old thing that I'm forgetting about? When did Monster in Paris come out? Anyone know? Let me know. Interesting. I'm curious about this Monster in Paris. Is it stop motion or is it something else? Sheridan says in USA, Nico is called The Flight Before Christmas. Oh, interesting. Flight Before Christmas. Ryan says, no, it's maybe 2 or 3 years old. And Jenny says, there is a version of Monster in Paris on Netflix if it's the same movie I'm thinking of. Wow, there could be more than one Monster in Paris? Hmm. Hmm. All kinds of things I have to investigate. So, Monster in Paris is on Netflix, but oh, Sheridan says Monster in Paris came out in 2011. Okay, okay, excellent. Well, I'll have to look into Monster in Paris. It sounds like it could be a lot of fun, especially if it's a French film, because they make some great stuff. I'm a big fan of Triplets of Belleville, which came out, I believe, the same year as Finding Nemo. Um, Sheridan says Nico 2 is called Little Brother Big Trouble. Okay. All right. So title changes across the board. Sheridan says yes. I'm assuming she's saying yes for Triplets of Belleville. That's such a great movie. It really is. I'll have to do a review at some point. Anyway, well, whew, we have had a lot of varying topics tonight, of course, as always, and I want to thank everybody for being here and joining me on the after party segment of the show. Having you here, it makes me able to do that part of the show. If there was nobody here, I would just be doing my beginning part and then ending it abruptly. But thank you for helping me stick around longer as usual. And I want to remind you guys, or actually tell you guys for the first time, that there is a high possibility that my special guest next week and the one 2 weeks from then will be in the chat room with you guys. So they will be able to do the Q&A with you guys, and you'll be able to talk to the composers directly. Ryan says, wouldn't miss it. Thank you, Ryan. So I'm pretty excited about that because I always extend that invitation to any of my guests, but many of them have like time constraints or whatever, or they're nervous about talking with a bunch of people in the chat room. I don't know. But I've had a couple of maybes, possibly yeses for these next two guests, which is great. So if you guys think of any questions, or I'm sure you'll think of questions as they come to you, but make sure you're here for those interviews because that's going to be really awesome. I've never had that before on this show. It's going to be kind of like having the interview happen live in a way. So that's very exciting, I think. Anyway. Well, we got 5 minutes left to go. I hate to cut things 5 minutes early, but unless you guys have any closing comments or questions, toss them out at me right now. I'll give you guys about 30 seconds or so to give me a reason to talk for 5 more minutes. Like I need a reason. Ha! Man, before I did this gig, I worked 9 years in retail, so I literally talked all day. And then I went and did tech support over the phone for 4 years, so I literally talked all day. So talking for an hour is not the weirdest thing that I've ever done, nor is it foreign to me in any stretch of the imagination. So just thought I'd throw that little nugget out there. This episode of the show will be edited and re-uploaded sometime tomorrow. If you want to check it out, come on back, check it out. And Sheridan says, thank you, keep it up. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Sheridan, for being here. That means a lot. I know, Sheridan, you just had a baby recently, so I'm excited that you are feeling awake enough to be here with us. But yeah, if you missed the beginning part of the show, if you missed the part that was the scripted portion, it'll be re-uploaded tomorrow. Judith says, so glad I got to catch your show tonight. I'm recording Madam Secretary. Oh, okay. We'll have to talk about that later, Judith. I'm so glad you got to be here too. Judith, is this your first time checking out Stay Tuned? And like I said, check out the show tomorrow when it gets re-uploaded, or check out any of the other ones. You'll see what I mean when I say edited. And and Judith says, "Congrats, Sheridan, on the baby, on the bundle of joy. We've just a new baby has joined the ranks of the filmmakers here in Austin." I'm no doubt in my mind that baby is going to be on camera like all the time. It probably already is on camera without me even knowing about it. So Sheridan has a very rich history of film making in this town, and her children are going to be no exceptions. Sheridan says, "Thank you, Judith." And Judith says, not the first time, but first time live, I think. Oh, okay. Yeah, being here live is kind of cool because we get to do all this little stuff. And Sheridan says, "Oh, you know it." And Judith says, "Christmas baby." Well, it wasn't quite a Christmas baby because he was born within the past week. So it's definitely a 2019 baby, which might be a good thing because, you know, having your birthday on Christmas might be considered a bummer. I don't know. Some people would think it's a bummer, I guess. You might get less attention than you usually would because it's all condensed into one thing. Or you could just milk it and be like, look, this has got to be a killer Christmas because my birthday is happening at the same time. But it is close enough to Christmas that effect might still happen. New Year's baby, says Judith. Yes, a New Year's baby indeed. I would have to agree. Well, anyway, it is 9:58, and Sheridan says, I'll post a birth video soon. Oh my, okay. Well, thank you for doing that. I'm sure that will be exciting. And since we are approaching 10 o'clock here in Austin, thanks so much for being here, everyone. Thanks for being here. If you missed the show, check out this channel tomorrow. I'm going to be re-uploading the video, and you'll be able to catch it in a slightly more condensed, edited version. And then, of course, be here again next week. We do it every week on this channel for an hour. New animation discussions and new guests as well. And good night, says Jenny. Good night, Jenny. Good night, everybody. And thanks for being here, folks. Have a great one. Stay tuned.